I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. This is Unindoctrinate. So glad to have you back. And I'm so glad to be sitting here right now in a more nurturing environment that supports my creativity, a environment that supports my spiritual desires to grow and develop, an environment that supports my desire to unindoctrinate. I'm talking about focused life force energy. Go to my website, jeffreydaugherty.com. Click on the FLFE or Fluffy Focused Life Force Energy logo. And you're going to find two options there. One, they'll give you a 15-day trial on your cell phone, which puts this field in a 60 feet diameter or distance from your phone in all directions. Or they'll put this field in your home. And I should say, because you can get 15-day trial on the phone, you can get 15-day trial on your home, a total of 30 days, and you don't even have to list a credit card, ladies and gentlemen. That's focused life force energy, a more nurturing environment. I always say it's not going to make you more spiritual, but it will help you make you more spiritual. It will help you indoctrinate yourself by putting you in a more nurturing environment. Fluffy, FLFE, go to jeffreydaugherty.com and click on the logo. We're talking about assault on Aquarius. Today we're talking specifically about Paul past or after. Post would be the right word. Paul post PID. We're talking about Paul McCartney, the man after the alleged events of the Paul is dead. And I know that most of you probably think, oh, well, that's Fall, the replacement. I don't think so. And I think there's something that happened. If you look at what happened in the video when John died and Paul was very flippant, that's Fall. And I think you're right. Those of you that say, oh, that's Fall, that can't be McCartney, he'd never do that. But I think that is Fall because in times of great stress, in times of great pressure, I could see him falling back into that fall, or I could see the controllers trying to leverage that fallness again on him. But there's another time that happened in 82, and Paul McCartney is on a TV show called Desert Island Discs. And I'm going to read this. These are the lyrics of Beautiful Boy. John Lennon wrote this. I know someone's going to write and say, oh, he wrote it for his son. Well, you're welcome to your opinion, and you're welcome to do a show that espouses that opinion and elucidates on that opinion. But this is my show, and my opinion is that he didn't write it for his son. Listen to these lyrics through the mindset. Just imagine for a moment, if you will. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. You know the song, but imagine this. Imagine that John Lennon knew what had happened to Elvis Presley as far as MK Ultra mind control. And John Lennon did know because Elvis told him about it. I have two people that were at the meeting of the Beatles and Elvis that told me that Elvis told him. Imagine that John Lennon knew that Elvis had been subjected to MK Ultra mind control. Imagine that John watched and understood that Paul was being subject to it. It's easy if you try. Imagine that John was aware of it before Paul was aware of it, and that Paul finally became aware of it. And then when John realized Paul was aware of it, they had to talk about it, and John said, I can't be quiet anymore. I'm going to go public. And in his last album, he didn't know it was his last album, but his last album that he writes, Double Fantasy, John Lennon includes this song, Beautiful Boy. Think about it in those terms. What if Beautiful Boy was written to Paul McCartney from John Lennon because he knew about the MK Ultra mind control? Think about, because the other story is, oh, he wrote it for his son because he was afraid of the dark. Really? Really? You buy that? Think about it in these terms. Beautiful Boy. And I could play the song, but then we'd get a copyright strike and it would ruin my whole day. So we're not going to play the song. Beautiful Boy by John Lennon. Close your eyes. Have no fear. The monster's gone. Dudes, think about that in terms of Lennon saying to McCartney, close your eyes, have no fear, the monster's gone, it's past, it's over, you got through it. He's on the run, the monster's on the run, and your daddy's here. I can see Lennon jokingly calling himself McCartney's daddy. You know, there was a friendly rivalry between the two. I could see that. Close your eyes. Have no fear. The monster's gone. He's on the run. Your daddy's here. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Before you go to sleep, say a little prayer every day in every way. It's getting better and better. Paul, you made it through. And every day that you live now, having made it through, gets better. And you get better. And it becomes easier. It becomes more beautiful, 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 beautiful boy. Out on the ocean, sailing away. I can hardly wait to see you come of age. This is, I think it's poignant. Lennon's saying to Paul, you're sailing your own ship now. I can't hardly wait to see what you do, but I guess I'll have to be patient because it's a long way to go. It's a hard road to hoe. Yes, it's a long way to go. But in the meantime, before you cross the street, obviously an allusion back to Abbey Road, which, of course, is renowned for being a Paul is Dead scene set up by Lennon, who was in charge of the album art. Before you cross the street, before you go back to Abbey Road and to the Paul is Dead and the MK Tavistock years, take my hand. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. McCartney didn't really listen to Elvis at night. Lennon did. And this is a gentle reminder from John, hey, buddy, I told you. But you were busy making other plans. Beautiful, beautiful boy. Written, performed by John Lennon, released on the 1980 Double Fantasy album, the last album that Lennon released before his death. And of all the songs that John Lennon wrote, and of all the songs that he and McCartney and George and Ringo recorded together, the fact that McCartney says this is his favorite, to me, well, it convinces me I'm right about this. Of all those songs, why is this the one? Because I think Paul gave us a key to the amazing truth regarding this MK Ultra mind control he went through. I think John is showing us a truth that he knew about that. And I think that Paul puts to death forever the Paul is dead rumor. And it's powerful stuff. It's powerful stuff. So the program is coming to an end, the Desert Island Disc. McCartney says this sums it up. This sums it up. This is the whole story. This song, Beautiful Boy. And Paul, again, goes out of his way to say it's from Double Fantasy, John's last album. John was going to tell the whole truth. John got killed. And then Paul plays this music, and the camera stays on Paul, and it's very, very emotional. I'm having trouble right now not getting emotional because I remember watching this during the study, and it was very poignant. You know, Paul was very flippant, very detached, very bored. And Paul, very happy, giddy, talking about how their first fans used to request the song Searching over and over. He does his impersonation of the fans. It's really funny. And then John starts to sing Beautiful Boy. And something really amazing happens. McCartney is deeply touched. He's deeply overcome by emotion. And then as I try not to, McCartney starts to sob. I mean, sob. As he's listening to John sing Beautiful Boy. Paul McCartney is literally sobbing. Close your eyes, have no fear, the monster's gone. He's on the run. Your daddy's here every day in every way. It's getting better and better. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans, beautiful boy. And McCartney is literally sobbing, and tears are coming down his face, ladies and gentlemen. And we saw Paul's reaction to Lennon's death. And here I think that we finally get to see Paul's. Heartbroken, yet somehow hopeful. And you got to watch the video on YouTube. Find it and give it a watch. And if you're on YouTube tonight, I'll show you right now the URL. And if you're not on YouTube, because you're watching the premiere of this or listening to the premiere, it's called Exquisitely Bored INN. Well, it's actually called Exquisitely Bored in Nacogdoches.blogspot.com. I don't even know if it's still there, but you can check it out and see if it's still there. Whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. Darn it, I think I just lost my place. Scintillating live YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. Scintillating live YouTube gives me a chance, though, to remind you that if you pass by me, you're going to notice a wonderful, wafting, manly smell of peppermint right now, because I have bathed today with my Hero soap. And if you go to www.jeffreydaugherty.com, click on that Hero soap logo, it's the American flag. They'll give you a great discount, and you too can have that Hero soap. Let freedom clean, ladies and gentlemen. So, the professional that I am, I found my way once again, and we can finish up with this transmission of podcast excellence. Exquisitely Bored in Nacogdoches, blogspot.com. So, again, I have to ask you, why this song? Why would this song create such a monumental reaction in Paul McCartney? Could it be that this otherwise unremarkable tune was emblematic to Paul of something very, very deep and personal that he and John shared? I know I gave you a quick run, but let's examine the lyrics again for clues. Again, people said that this song was written for John's son, Sean. I don't think that's true. Close your eyes, have no fear, the monster's gone. Again, what if those words were written for Paul? Wouldn't that explain the dramatic impact on Paul, because John wrote it for him as a memorial of the great battle that Paul fought and won? Could Lennon have come to understand that Paul had been the victim of this vicious mind control assault? The lyrics could certainly be speaking of that, and it would explain, at least in my mind, why the song had such deep meaning for Paul. You can almost hear John clapping him on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, you made it, mate." And then we talked about your daddies here, even in tribute, playful Lennon couldn't resist a little jab, calling himself daddy to Paul's beautiful boy. And it was always acknowledged that Paul was the most handsome of the Beatles. And they say that John commented upon it a lot. So Paul really was the beautiful boy of the Beatles. Then before you go to sleep, say a little prayer every day and every way. You're getting better. You can almost hear John encouraging Paul. Be diligent. Keep heart. Because he had indeed come out of the maw of the monster. And every single day was getting better and better. John reminding Paul, get better. Was John reminding Paul something he himself said years before in the Beatles song Getting Better, that things were going to be all right? By the way, Getting Better was released in 1967, about the time that Paul's assault would have begun. Ooh, that's a very big reminder, isn't it? Things are getting better and better, because remember what happened when we did Getting Better? This happened to you. Powerful, boom. That is some good stuff. I can hardly wait to see you come of age. We'll have to be patient. It's a long way to go, a hard road to hoe. Yeah, it's been a long way to go, but in the meantime, cryptic utterances seemingly by John, like he's saying goodbye. Sometimes I wonder if John might have foresaw the difficult times ahead, but was confident that Paul would continue to grow and progress despite what might happen to John. In the PID, Paul is dead circles, most of the researchers will say that Lennon was murdered because he's about to disclose the truth about Paul being killed and replaced. Again, close, I think, but it was written shortly before John was murdered, and John's main passion in those days was against corporate greed, against control and more warmongering. Let me ask you a question. What's more likely that Lennon was about to disclose? Was Lennon more likely to disclose a dead and replaced Paul, or was he about to blow the lid off a governmental conspiracy of mind control assault upon the two most famous individuals of the 20th century, Elvis Presley and Paul McCartney? Put another way, which revelation would be more likely to motivate a governmental assassin? Something else to think about here on Indoctrinate. It's a long way to go, a hard road to hoe. John knew he was facing a great challenge. Yes, it's a long way to go, but in the meantime, before you cross the street, take my hand. And again, you can see John reorganizing the Immortal Abbey Road procession in these words. In the original, Paul's the corpse, and John leads the group as the priest. But now John is saying, hey, Paul, take my hand, lead me, you be the priest. Because John somehow sensed that it was his time to die, and that Paul had to step up and act as priest. Wow. I mean, look at that lyric. Before you cross the street, take my hand, lead me. John was the priest on the Abbey Road. Now he puts Paul in the priest, and he puts himself in the dead man's position. Pretty amazing, pretty dark, pretty moving, pretty poignant. And it also makes no sense if you're viewing this as a song written from a father to his son. Life is what happens to you when you're busy making other plans. And John reminds Paul to be diligent, brace himself, do what he knows he should have, do what he knows he should have done long ago. It has all the hallmarks, folks, of a last will and testament. It also looks like a solemn exchange of love, shared experience, and victory between veterans of a secret and costly war, ladies and gentlemen. Wow. Beautiful boy, John Lennon, written, in my opinion, for Paul McCartney. And, of course, John would have answered Paul back, or Paul would have answered John back, I think. And I believe he did so, folks. In the song Here Today, Paul answers John, addresses his beautiful boy song. McCartney openly admits that he wrote this song for John. McCartney has said this song is a conversation between him and his dear departed friend. And Paul writes these words. This is emotional, folks. And I'm not even a Beatles fan. I imagine you Beatles fans are crying your eyes out right now. But and we're here on Indoctrinate, the Odyssey Network. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, also the Christian Whistleblower on YouTube. But as for me, I still remember how it was before, and I'm holding back the tears no more. And can I say that, without getting you mad, that most of McCartney's songs aren't really known for their depth of lyrics? They're great to sing, they're catchy, they're fun, but very few of his songs convey deep emotion. This one is different. But as for me, I still remember how it was before, and I'm holding back the tears no more. Paul promises John that he hasn't forgotten what he went through with that MK Ultra days of the 60s. He hasn't forgotten the costs. And he assures John he's continuing to deal with it and he's not suppressing it. And then Paul writes, what about the night we cried because there wasn't any reason left to keep it all inside? Never understood a word, but you were always there with a smile. Could this be Paul's ode to the night that the two discovered together the nefarious plot and plans that brought fall onto the scene? Does Paul acknowledge John's decision to go public with the story? No reason left to keep it all inside. Is it finally Paul granting permission to his friend and a thank you for being there during a time that only Lennon could understand, if anybody could understand? And John didn't even know what was going on all the time, but he was there. And that's very, very important. And then, of course, Paul says, and if I say I really loved you and was glad you came along. Not really any commentary meant there, needed there, folks. It's certain that the Beautiful Boy song had an impact on McCartney that was out of all proportion based on common knowledge and understanding about that song. And in this scenario that I propose here today, I think it makes much more sense. And there's one more thing, ladies and gentlemen. One more thing, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry about the sniffles, but it's kind of emotional. I'm like the pageant girls. One more thing. One more very interesting thing. At the close of McCartney's appearance on Desert Island Disc, this is probably one of the most blatant Easter eggs, the most blatant Easter egg drops I've ever seen in my life. The Dark Lords of MK Tavistock make sure to let us know that they know what we know. Paul has just gone through this song that is John writing to him, congratulating him for making it through the MK Ultra Tavistock mind control, encouraging him to stay diligent. Paul cries, sobs, sobbing. And as the program closes, ladies and gentlemen, a show about Paul McCartney, a show about John Lennon, a show about the Beatles. As the program closes, they cut from the weeping Paul McCartney to a photo of Elvis Presley. Wow. I think that's irrefutable confirmation of the MK Tavistock assault on Paul McCartney, as well as the fact that John Lennon knew about it and was quite possibly about to disclose the whole MK Ultra thing before he was gunned down. The Easter egg shot of Elvis suggests to me that it's quite possible that McCartney and Lennon also knew about the astral assault on Elvis Presley and probably Gladys. And as I look at what I consider to be compelling evidence, ladies and gentlemen, John Lennon did know that Paul was under mind control assault. That's my belief. That's my conviction. And at the end, Paul knew that John knew. And Paul knew that John knew and that Elvis told him. And Elvis knew because John told him. But Paul didn't quite get the message. You know, Paul, happy-go-lucky. Wow, very interesting stuff. And before we finish with this, and we'll probably have to come back tomorrow night because we're almost out of time. One of the main staples of the Paul is Dead culture is the clues in the album cover art of several Beatles albums. And again, the PID folks have, I believe, identified some legitimate phenomenon, but they've drawn erroneous conclusions to it. So let's take a look with our remaining time tonight and with our time tomorrow, probably. We'll take a look at some of the more famous and more legitimate examples of album cover manipulation that gives clear clues to some type of monumental event happening in the life of Paul McCartney. Of course, any discussion of this starts with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's especially interesting to me because it's the first album to show the big change. Sgt. Pepper's showed the change of leaving Verdi tuning, leaving the 432, going into the 440, going into the bad frequency for us. Sgt. Pepper shows that glaring shift, the glaring changes in Paul McCartney's appearance and his personality. It's when they really, really become publicly apparent. And if you remember the front cover of Sgt. Pepper's, and if you're on YouTube, of course, I'm going to go ahead and show it to you right now. We're going to have to hurry with this because we only got 2 minutes left. But I'm going to show you the cover of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, and we will just look at the cover tonight. That's about all we're going to be able to do. And you've all seen the cover of Sgt. Pepper's. You know what it looks like, but let me just give you, whoops, dude. That got way too big on me. Way too big on me. What happened here? Wow, dude. Jumping all over the place, folks, I'll tell you. Trying to help you out and make it a little bigger, and it got too big, folks. And you know that too big is not usually a problem, but it is here in this case. So let's see if I can throw this out to you just so you can see. It is a funeral procession, I think. If you look at the cover of Sgt. Pepper's, it is a funeral. And we're going to do this really fast because we're almost out of time. So here is Sgt. Pepper's, and you can see Sgt. Pepper's. And as you're looking at that, you can see that it is a funeral procession. And it looks to me like Paul, he's white, he's dead. The other ones are not dead. And it is a funeral. And we'll get more into it tomorrow. We're going to have to leave it at that. Amazing stuff. A cliffhanger. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian Whistleblower. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty here tonight with Unindoctrinate, and we're talking about the assault on Aquarius tonight. Paul is dead, John Lennon, and all things of that nature. We'll be back tomorrow night, hopefully to wrap this up. But until then, remember, winners write history. We can win. Together, we can win today, and we can write a better tomorrow because we are the last generation of real humans, and we can do it if we'll just get busy.